Who is Hamas? Hello, dear viewers. Today we will discuss with you a very important and topical issue, Hamas. In this video, we will take an in-depth look at the history, ideology, actions, and international impact of Hamas. If you are ready, let's get started. What is Hamas, and how did it come to be? Hamas is one of the most important organizations of the Palestinian resistance. Its name is an Arabic acronym for Islamic Resistance Movement. It was founded in 1987, during the First Intifada. Its founding was based on the struggle against the Israeli occupation and the goal of establishing an independent Palestinian state. Hamas has its roots in the Muslim Brotherhood organization. The Islamic Center in Gaza in the 1970s, led by Sheikh Ahmed Yassin, played an important role in the formation of Hamas. Yassin was later recognized as the spiritual leader of Hamas. Hamas's founding manifesto sets out the organization's main goals and ideology. It rejects the existence of Israel and aims for the liberation of the entire Palestinian territories. It also includes the ideal of establishing an Islamic state. So how did Hamas become so powerful? Hamas has been strengthened by several factors. First, the growing discontent among the Palestinian population and the backlash against the Israeli occupation provided Hamas with support. The organization increased its popular support by providing social services and carrying out activities in the fields of education and health. Secondly, the failure of the Oslo peace process strengthened Hamas's hand. The failure of the peace talks to produce tangible results has created frustration among Palestinians and increased the inclination towards more radical solutions. The third factor was the establishment of the Izz ad-Din al-Qassam brigades, the military wing of Hamas. This military wing led the armed struggle against Israel and increased the deterrent power of the organization. What are Hamas's ideology and goals? Hamas's ideology is based on Islamic principles. The organization considers the Palestinian cause within an Islamic framework and characterizes its struggle as jihad. Hamas's ultimate goal is to establish an Islamic state in the historic Palestinian territories. The organization's manifesto contains some hostile statements against Jews and Christians. Over time, however, Hamas leaders have tended to soften this rhetoric. For example, in a new document published in 2017, Hamas stated that it would accept a Palestinian state along the 1967 borders. What is Hamas's political and military organization? Hamas is composed of two main wings, political and military. The political wing is the organization's decision-making mechanism and handles its international relations. The military wing, the Izz ad-Din al-Qassam brigades, is responsible for armed struggle. The highest decision-making body of the organization is the Shura Council. This council determines Hamas's general policies and holds leadership elections. The current political leader of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, was elected to this position in 2017. What are Hamas's military strategies and tactics? The Izz ad-Din al-Qassam brigades, the military wing of Hamas, has developed various tactics over the years. Initially focusing on suicide attacks, the organization gradually shifted to rocket attacks and tunnel warfare. Rocket attacks are one of Hamas's most well-known tactics. The organization uses munitions ranging from simple Qassam rockets to more sophisticated Fajr 5 rockets against southern Israel. Most of these rockets are Iranian-made or produced with Iranian technology. Tunnel warfare is another important tactic Hamas has developed in recent years. A network of tunnels stretches for kilometers under Gaza, used both defensively and offensively. They are also used to smuggle weapons and supplies. Hamas is also trying to develop new capabilities, such as naval commandos and drones. But Israel's technological superiority and tight blockade make it difficult for Hamas to advance in these areas. Hamas's social services and popular support. An important source of Hamas's strength is its social services. Since its establishment, the organization has placed great emphasis on education, health, and aid. These services provide Hamas with strong support, especially among the poor in Gaza. Hamas runs many schools, hospitals, and aid organizations in Gaza. These institutions fill an important gap in areas where state services are inadequate. For example, the Hamas-run Islamic University is the largest higher education institution in Gaza. The organization also provides aid programs for orphans and families of martyrs, food distribution, and job opportunities. These activities strengthen Hamas's legitimacy in the eyes of the public and provide the organization with a steady supply of human resources. However, there is criticism that Hamas uses these social services for political purposes and directs aid to its own supporters. Hamas and media relations. Hamas is careful to use the media effectively. The organization conducts propaganda activities through its own media outlets and tries to gain access to international media. Hamas has an official television channel, Al-Aqsa TV, a radio station, Al-Aqsa Radio, and various websites. Through these channels, the organization disseminates its point of view and communicates with its supporters. In its relations with the international media, Hamas has adopted a more professional approach in recent years. The organization's spokespersons make regular statements to the foreign press and try to convey Hamas's messages to the world. However, Hamas's media activities often face censorship. Israel and some Western countries ban or deny access to Hamas media outlets. Hamas and other Palestinian factions. Hamas's main rival in Palestinian politics is the Fatah organization led by Mahmoud Abbas. The rivalry between the two groups has a profound impact on Palestinian politics. Fatah follows a more secular line and advocates a negotiated settlement with Israel. Hamas, on the other hand, is Islamic and emphasizes armed struggle. These ideological differences form the basis of the conflict between the two groups. Since the 2007 civil conflict, Palestine has been de facto divided in two. Hamas controls Gaza and Fatah controls the West Bank. This division is deeply damaging to the Palestinian cause and complicates efforts for national unity. Hamas also faces competition from more radical groups such as Islamic Jihad. These groups sometimes criticize Hamas for not being tough enough against Israel. Hamas and the Arab Spring. Beginning in 2010, the Arab Spring had a profound impact on Hamas. Initially, the rise of Islamic movements offered Hamas new opportunities. The Muslim Brotherhood's rise to power, especially in Egypt, strengthened Hamas. However, the changes brought by the Arab Spring were short-lived. The coup by Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in Egypt and the civil war in Syria left Hamas in a difficult situation. The organization was forced to cut ties with Syria, one of its most important supporters. In this process, Hamas had to reshape its regional alliances. While improving its relations with countries such as Turkey and Qatar, it strengthened its ties with Iran. Hamas and the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. Hamas has opposed the Oslo peace process from the beginning. The organization does not believe that a settlement can be reached through negotiations with Israel and considers such attempts a betrayal of the Palestinian cause. In recent years, however, there has been some softening in Hamas's hardline stance. In a new political document published in 2017, Hamas stated that it would accept a Palestinian state along the 1967 borders. This was interpreted as a step towards the organization's indirect recognition of Israel. Nevertheless, Hamas remains opposed to direct negotiations with Israel. The organization says it can only accept a peace deal if the Israeli occupation ends completely and the right of return of Palestinian refugees is recognized. Hamas's position is a major obstacle in the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. Israel and the international community see Hamas's renunciation of violence and recognition of Israel's right to exist as a precondition for peace talks. Hamas and the Gaza blockade. Since 2007, Gaza has been under a tight blockade imposed by Israel and Egypt. This blockade deeply affects Hamas's rule and the lives of the people of Gaza. The blockade severely restricts the flow of goods and people into Gaza. This has led to a severe economic crisis and humanitarian tragedy in the region. The unemployment rate is over 50%, and Gaza's infrastructure is on the verge of collapse. Hamas is trying various methods to break the blockade. These include building tunnels, trying to break the blockade by sea, and appealing to the international community. Another consequence of the blockade is that it complicates Hamas's efforts to arm itself. Israel sees the blockade as necessary to prevent Hamas from obtaining weapons. Hamas and women's rights. Hamas's stance on women's rights is often criticized. As the organization aims to establish an Islamic social order, it defines the role of women according to traditional Islamic understanding. Under Hamas rule in Gaza, various restrictions are imposed on women. For example, it interferes with the way women dress and prohibits the coexistence of men and women in some public spaces. Hamas, however, defends itself against these criticisms by arguing that women play an active role in the organization and in the governance of Gaza. Indeed, Hamas has women's branches, and there are female militants within the organization. Nevertheless, international human rights organizations report serious violations of women's rights under Hamas rule. Hamas and youth. Youth is Hamas's most important human resource. The organization employs various strategies to win the youth. Hamas is active in universities and schools. It tries to reach the younger generation through student clubs and youth organizations. It also tries to attract young people to the organization by organizing summer camps and sports events. Gaza's high unemployment rate and young people with no hope for the future are a source of potential recruits for Hamas. The organization offers them both the ideological purpose and economic opportunities. In recent years, however, there has been growing criticism of Hamas among young people due to the difficult living conditions in Gaza. Many young people are trying to leave Gaza in the hope of a better life. Who are Hamas's financing and external supporters? Hamas is financed by a variety of sources. These include donations, taxes, smuggling revenues, and foreign support. Iran, in particular, is one of Hamas's most important external supporters. Countries such as Syria and Qatar have also supported Hamas at times. However, Hamas's finances are under constant pressure due to international sanctions. Many countries and international organizations recognize Hamas as a terrorist organization and try to prevent its financing. What is Hamas's role in Palestinian politics? Hamas won a major victory in the 2006 Palestinian parliamentary elections. This election result led to a major shift in Palestinian politics. However, Hamas's victory was not generally recognized by the international community. In 2007, clashes between Hamas and Fatah led to the de facto division of Palestine into two. Hamas took control of the Gaza Strip, while Fatah, led by Mahmoud Abbas, took control of the West Bank. This division left deep scars on Palestinian politics and complicated efforts for national unity. Although there have been occasional attempts at reconciliation between Hamas and Fatah, a lasting solution has yet to be reached. What are Hamas's relations with Israel? Hamas's relations with Israel have been in constant conflict since its inception. The organization does not recognize Israel's existence and sees armed struggle as a legitimate method. Hamas has carried out rocket attacks, suicide bombings, and other armed actions against Israel. These actions have often resulted in harsh Israeli military operations against Gaza. Major clashes in Gaza in 2008, 2012, and 2014 marked the peak of tensions between Hamas and Israel. These clashes resulted in thousands of civilian casualties and massive destruction in Gaza. In recent years, there have been indirect, if not direct, talks between Hamas and Israel through Egypt. These talks have generally focused on ceasefire agreements and prisoner swaps. What are Hamas's international relations like? The international recognition of Hamas is a highly controversial issue. The United States, the European Union, Israel, and some Arab countries recognize Hamas as a terrorist organization. This severely limits the organization's international relations and diplomatic activities. On the other hand, countries such as Iran, Turkey, and Qatar maintain relations with Hamas. Countries such as Russia and China also hold meetings with Hamas representatives from time to time. Hamas is trying to gain international legitimacy. In recent years, the organization has been trying to achieve this goal by adopting a more moderate discourse and using diplomatic channels. Hamas and international humanitarian aid. The delivery of international humanitarian aid to Gaza is complicated by Hamas control. Many countries and international organizations are working to ensure that aid does not fall into the hands of Hamas. The UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in Gaza, UNRWA, is the most important source of humanitarian aid in the region. However, UNRWA is sometimes accused of collaborating with Hamas. Hamas is trying to have a say in the distribution of international aid. This situation often causes tensions between aid organizations and Hamas. On the other hand, Israel's blockade of Gaza makes it difficult for humanitarian aid to reach the region. This situation deepens the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and paves the way for Hamas's criticism. Hamas and Israel's security policies. Hamas's presence and actions directly affect Israel's security policies. Israel sees Hamas as an existential threat and develops strategies accordingly. Israel's Iron Dome air defense system was largely developed to counter Hamas rocket attacks. Israel has also developed specialized technologies to detect and destroy Hamas's tunnel network. The presence of Hamas also justifies Israel's frequent military operations in Gaza. Although these operations provoke criticism from the international community, Israel considers them necessary for its national security. As a result, Hamas's presence and activities remain one of the most important elements of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The future of the organization has the potential to affect not only the future of Palestine, but the entire Middle East. Dear viewers, in this comprehensive analysis, we have tried to cover all aspects of Hamas. I hope this video has helped you understand this complex issue. As always, I encourage you to do more research on the subject and to explore different perspectives. Hamas's status under international law. Hamas's position in international law is highly controversial. Many countries and international organizations define Hamas as a terrorist organization. This definition is based on factors such as the organization's attacks against civilians and its rejection of Israel's existence. However, some legal scholars and academics argue that Hamas should be considered a resistance movement. According to this view, the right of the Palestinian people to defend their occupied territories is recognized by international law. Hamas's actions are also considered war crimes and crimes against humanity. Rocket attacks, especially against civilians, are often criticized in this context. However, Hamas denies these accusations and characterizes its actions as legitimate resistance. In 2021, the International Criminal Court, ICC, launched an investigation into crimes committed in the Palestinian territories. This investigation covers the actions of both Israel and Hamas. The ICC's decision has the potential to clarify Hamas's position under international law. Hamas and Gaza's economy. Hamas's rule in Gaza has a profound impact on the region's economy. With very limited foreign trade opportunities due to the blockade, Gaza has an economy heavily dependent on foreign aid and smuggling. Hamas has created a tunnel economy in Gaza. Tunnels dug under the Israeli and Egyptian borders are used to smuggle both weapons and daily consumer goods. While this keeps the economy afloat, it also leads to an increase in illegal activities. The organization also generates income by collecting various taxes in Gaza. However, this taxation system creates an additional burden on the already struggling people of Gaza. Hamas's economic policies also keep international investors and aid organizations away. This makes Gaza's economic development even more difficult. Hamas and the education system. Hamas sees education as an important tool for spreading its ideology and shaping future generations. The education system in Gaza is run along Islamic lines under Hamas control. School curricula are organized to reflect Hamas's ideology. Textbooks include negative statements about Israel and Jews. This situation is often criticized by the international community. On the other hand, the importance Hamas attaches to education ensures a high literacy rate in Gaza. However, due to the blockade, the quality of education is low, and students have limited access to international educational opportunities. Hamas and media freedom. Media freedom in Gaza faces serious problems under Hamas rule. The organization exercises tight control over the media and pursues repressive policies against dissenting voices. Journalists risk arrest or imprisonment if they report news critical of Hamas. This prevents the development of a free and independent media in Gaza. International media organizations also face difficulties working in Gaza. Hamas strictly controls the activities of foreign journalists, sometimes threatening deportation. Hamas and the Palestinian diaspora. The Palestinian diaspora is an important source of support for Hamas. The organization garners sympathy and financial support among Palestinians living in various countries around the world. Hamas carries out propaganda activities among diaspora Palestinians and tries to garner support for the Palestinian cause. These activities are also carried out intensively through social media and the internet. However, Hamas relations with the diaspora are not always smooth, especially among Palestinians living in Western countries and adopting a more secular lifestyle. There is criticism of Hamas's radical Islamic line. How is Hamas governance in Gaza? Hamas has ruled the Gaza Strip since 2007. During this time, it has adopted a rule based on Islamic rules. Sharia law is applied in Gaza, and social life is organized according to Islamic rules. Under Hamas rule, Gaza is under constant blockade and economic crisis. The blockade imposed by Israel and Egypt has largely cut Gaza off from the outside world. This has led to high unemployment, poverty, and infrastructure problems. On the other hand, Hamas's rule in Gaza has also been criticized in terms of human rights. The crackdown on dissenting voices, restrictions on freedom of expression, and violations of women's rights are among the most frequently voiced criticisms. What is the future of Hamas? The future of Hamas is directly linked to the future of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. The organization's policies and the attitude of the international community are the most important factors that will determine Hamas's future. Hamas has several options. First, it can maintain its current line and continue the armed struggle against Israel. However, this option risks deepening the humanitarian crisis in Gaza and increasing international isolation. The second option is to shift to a more moderate line and seek reconciliation with the international community. This option could mean Hamas recognizing Israel and renouncing violence. However, this could provoke a backlash from the organization's radical wing and lead to internal divisions. The third option is to contribute to Palestinian national unity and reach a compromise with Fatah. This option could strengthen the Palestinian cause, but would require Hamas to make some concessions. Hamas's future will also be affected by shifts in the regional and global balance of power. For example, Iran's role in the region, Arab countries' normalization process with Israel, and U.S. policies in the Middle East are among the factors that could affect Hamas's room for maneuver. In conclusion, Hamas is a complex and controversial organization. While it is seen as an important actor in the Palestinian resistance, it is also known for its terrorist activities. The future of the organization has the potential to directly affect the Middle East peace process and regional balances. Understanding the history, ideology, and activities of Hamas is crucial to grasping the complex nature of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. The future steps of this organization can affect not only Palestine and Israel, but the entire Middle East. Dear viewers, I hope this video has given you a comprehensive overview of Hamas. I have tried to cover this complex topic as objectively and impartially as possible. But as always, I invite you to do more research and check different sources. If you found this video useful, please do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel. In our next video, we will discuss another important topic in the Middle East. Until then, goodbye and take care.